Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. We'll go around the room and do the who's with us today, and it's good to see everybody. We have Mayor Cooley from Sheridan. We got Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner. We have Jody Christensen, the Regional Solutions Coordinator for the Governor's Office. We have Senator Arnie Roblin. We have Joyce Flemming from Congresswoman Bonimici's office. We have Shannon Buckmaster. Oh my goodness, everything is out of order now. We have Shannon Buckmaster from the Chehalis Valley Chamber of Commerce. We've got Council President Kelly Menke from the City of McMinnville. We have Scott Cooper from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. We have Joya Goodrum from the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce. We have Abhisha Stone from SEDCOR, our economic development contractor. We have Wendy Valise from Portland General Electric. We have, we've got Commissioner Mary Starrett from Yamhill County on the phone, and we have Representative David Gomberg on the phone. And welcome, everybody. And our special guest today is Jody Christensen from the Governor's Office, and she has a few updates that she'd love to share with us. So we'll get started with her. And as a reminder, this is an opportunity to speak to members of the Yamhill County community, but also to share with the wonderful leaders who are on the roundtable today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I watch this every week, so I feel like I'm with all the rock stars of Yamhill County. So thank you very much for inviting me. I think there were a couple of things that I wanted to touch on before I shared the news about the Racial Justice Council, and that is I get texts and emails often about travel restrictions. And I just want to be really clear, we're having those discussions within our office, but that there hasn't been a decision made yet. We understand the extraordinary pressure that travel has on particularly our coastal communities, and we just want to make sure that moving forward that conversation is thought out, and that we have it's a very complex situation, so that we have thought about all those pieces and parts. So know that that's still being discussed within the governor's office. And then I think I just really want to put a reminder out there that the Cultural Trust will be managing funds that they're distributed through each region's art coalition, but that the application process is open now, and it is on the Cultural Trust website. It's a very easy process. It is for organizations that have been impacted by art and cultural organizations that have been impacted by COVID, particularly closures. And we want to make sure that even if you're not sure if your organization or your event or your venue is eligible, that you submit anyway. We don't want you to self-select out of the process. It would be really disappointing if you missed an opportunity to support your organization's loss of revenue. And so because it's a very quick turnaround time, those applications are due on August 24th. And so that's just next week. So we really want to make sure that you take a look at that and then fill out that simple form. Those will be vetted, and then that money will be distributed through your art coalition. So that's kind of the updates that I have. I believe, Commissioner, you have talked in the past about the face covering updates. And just to reiterate again, the face covering statewide guidance has been updated to include office settings. And this was much discussed in the beginning of this process. And I liken it to how you would act within a restaurant when you're doing dine-in. You wear the mask in when you're moving through the restaurant as you're seated, and you're with your quarantine pod or you're within 6 feet of distance from someone, you're removing your mask so that you can do your work. So if you're in an office setting and you're in a cubicle and you're distanced from other people, you could remove your mask. The moment you stand up, your mask needs to go on. If you're going to the restroom or to use the copier or move through the building in any way, the mask must be on. So it's a fairly easy process. We should be wearing masks anyway when we're walking through buildings, but I think that it gives clarity in that guidance. So the other thing I want to mention is that both on the governor's COVID website and the Oregon Health Authority website, as the guidance is updated, as modifications are occurring, we're now seeing dated guidance. So it's not just the guidance, but it's actually dated. So you can see the most current. And as we move through this response phase, as we start to go through the next several months before we get to a vaccine or a reliable treatment, I believe there will continue to be modifications as we learn more about the virus, as we learn more about how we can modify settings that people are in and how we move through our society. So I highly recommend, and I always tell businesses, please go back to those websites and review them every 5 to 7 days, just so that you know you're using the most accurate and pertinent information of the time. So I think that that's really important for people. So the commissioner had asked me to join you today to reflect on some of the work that the governor's office has been doing to make sure that we have, as we move through our response and into recovery, that we have equity at the forefront of our work. And I think many of you may know that a few weeks ago, the governor announced the Equity and Recovery Framework, which includes the Racial Justice Council. And this Racial Justice Council will be, there's a website that you can go to, and I can share it with the group in the chat when I'm not speaking. You'll see that there's a really overview framework of what that work is going to include. At the heart of it, we know that in this recovery, we will leave people behind if we don't put their voices at the forefront of the work that we're doing. They've been left behind before. In the last recovery, there were communities and underserved and underrepresented people that could not participate in the recovery. And we are not going to let that happen this time. We're going to make sure that their voices are heard often and at the forefront of these conversations. And I've been asked the question, does that leave, what does that mean for those of us that are in that work already? And what does that mean for rural communities when we hear a racial justice and framework? How do we fit into that? And here's what I will tell you. We fit in to that work because the more that we can raise people up through this recovery and into really an economic sustainability, the more we raise up all of our community members, all of our people that live within our towns and within our counties, it will be better for everyone. When we can break down barriers that limit access to programs through the state, that is a benefit to everyone. If we can take on systematic racism within our systems and break down the barriers and open the doors, that's a benefit to every community member. So I believe this work is an extraordinary opportunity for us to engage with new voices in helping us better understand how we can create government systems that serve every person in the state of Oregon. So I am honored to be doing this work on behalf of the governor. I think it's going to be incredibly hard work. She often says, this is hard, but we've learned through the pandemic that we need to be better at communicating and engaging with every Oregonian and every person who lives here so that we can make sure everyone has the opportunity to be successful. in the way we communicate, in the way that we add voices to the table, in the way that we lead these conversations. It's incredibly important. So we have the Racial Justice Council, and with under that will be a set of committees that will be tasked with certain areas of work, particularly criminal justice, economic opportunity, environment and natural resources, housing and homelessness, and health equity. These are 5 areas that will really be drilling down on how can we create more equitable systems in these certain areas. There will be a dynamic relationship between the Racial Justice Council and these committees. At the same time, each of our regions will be engaged in this work. So each region will be setting up a Regional Equity and Recovery Council. This council will be that feedback loop representing, in our case, representing the Mid-Valley, Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County. We will be feeding and connecting to the work in those with the committees. We'll have direct connection with the governor. We'll be able to talk about policies and budget and systems, and in a really vibrant and dynamic way, because there will be continual communication. And I think we've learned really well over the last few months at the economic recovery teams in each region, that feedback loop, that messaging from a region that says it's these are authentic to us, this is important to us, this is unique to us, has been a really key aspect of how we've done our work over the last several weeks. So it's really exciting to see this addition, and it's the right thing to do, and it'll be an extraordinary opportunity for us. So I hope that was helpful, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Jody. Are there questions for Jody about any of the things that she updated us on?
So
yes,
there's
Brandy.
the racial. Sorry.
No, go for it. I was just trying to figure out. I think that Shannon also wants to say something, but Wendy, why don't you join us first?
Sorry. So Jody, there's the Racial Justice Council, and then there's these 5 committees, and then Regional Solutions Team will also have regional racial equity councils. Is that the
Equity and Recovery Council? So
okay,
so this is new work that we're adding to our response and recovery as we move through COVID. There has been ongoing work done around the operations side. So that's where we've really been engaging with specific industry sectors and with specific I would say, sector groups, particularly the work that's being done with the farm workers. There's been a lot of work done. So this is in addition to, and really bringing in the lens of equity through that work.
And how will those groups be formed?
So right now, if you go to the website, and I'll put that in the chat in just a moment, you will see a list of people who've already been appointed to the Racial Justice Council. That is an ongoing process. And if there's interest in participating and being considered for that council, or any of the subcommittees, or the Regional Equity Council, there's lots of opportunities, lots of tables to be connected to. Feel free to connect with me, and I'm happy to forward your name and or your recommendation forward to that process. And this is, we're being really thoughtful. So while this announcement was made a couple of weeks ago, we're really making sure that we're taking time through this process. So it's not an expedited, although it is a short time frame, we're hoping to get everything up and running in the next 4 weeks.
If I could, I just want to offer a little bit of appreciation, gratitude to the governor's team, the regional solutions teams, for continuing our economic recovery teams, the ERTs. Originally, as we introduced the hyper-focused concept of equity in recovery, we were concerned that we were losing our major pathway of communication and support for our businesses from the governor's office working out to our individual communities. So thank you for being responsive to the request that we have to continue doing the ERT work. and keeping that process going. I know it's extra work when we're all still putting our best time toward this process. So I think it's important to acknowledge that you listened, you responded, and you gave us what we asked for because we believe it helps us in our job. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment because I will never let it go because we fought over it so badly. When it comes to the Arts Commission money, it's also available to county fairs and some other groups like that. So it's not just the art venues. It is any kind of venue out there that put on shows, did kinds of things in the community that because of COVID, they couldn't do it anymore. So they have lost, they may have had rent that they had to pay, had to keep their venue. Those are the kinds of issues that can be sent to the Cultural Trust, and then they'll send it back to those groups to work on. So thank you. And thanks for making sure you mentioned that again.
Well, thank you, Senator, for the clarification.
And Jody and I talked about how you kind of need to say things 6, 10, 14 times, even though we had a really great presentation from Sean Andrews last week. I still think it's important to remember it again. Any other comments or questions for Jody? All right, great. Thank you very much, Jody, for joining us. And Jody will put the links in the chat feature as well. Great, thank you. And since there are a number of folks here today, we don't have our 8+ McMinnville community media. I'm going to try to keep us moving along quickly. Apologies if I cut anybody short. And so I'd love to start with a congressional update from Joyce Flemming, and welcome.
I will be pretty brief. Right now, the House is going to reconvene on Saturday for a vote. Right now, it's a standalone bill on the post office. It would authorize $25 billion. It's possible that there may be more that comes to the table on Saturday. There's been some reports of the Senate working on a mini stimulus bill that sounds like it would have a lot in it. It would have PPP, unemployment. I think the unemployment benefit that was reported recently was $300 a week, but of course all of this is in flux at the moment. It would include possibly money for schools, money for testing, and also money for the post office. But the Senate bill right now is looking at $10 billion instead of $25 billion in the House. So there would be some room for compromise there. But the House, I think everyone understands that people are needing relief, and we would like to see that happen sooner rather than later. Then for the Congresswoman, she's also very focused right now on pushing for childcare funding. She has a childcare advisory board that she is convening, I believe it's next week. And then she's continuing to work very closely with small businesses to access financial support. So, so that's what I have, other than the fact that it is currently the Democratic National Convention. So that's been an interesting thing to see how they're adapting to the new Zoom format. So that's what I have.
All right, thank you very much, Joyce. And I'm sure that we can all give them advice on how to do Zoom now that we've had 44 of these.
I think so.
Are there questions or comments for Joyce? All right, well, I happened to encounter on Facebook, Congresswoman, a video of her speaking in front of the Beaverton post office, or one of them. So way to support the post office. I believe that was Senator Roblin's comment last week to Fritz Graham from Senator Wyden's office, just save the post office. Yeah. And yes. We're gonna do the same thing that we did last week, but with Senator Roblin, and we'll just send comments to him about what we want him to know about state stuff. So we'll get there, but I just wanted to prepare him for that. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd love to have Senator Roblin speak. What would you like to tell people in Yamhill County this week? We need to unmute you, Senator Roblin.
Thank you. That was good. It's a Zoom thing. We had our emergency board meeting yesterday on Monday, and we approved the one item we hadn't approved before. It was $105 million for the state to buy PPE. We had a lot of clarifications in that document, so if you went to look at the meeting, it can go through trying to explain where all the money has been going from the $1.6 billion that we've had to spend. We're getting down to almost nothing left. I'll let David explain, but he did a nice job of explaining why we're concerned about rural areas not getting their share of that money. But the reality is, everybody agrees PPE is really important. Testing is really important. We need to have some stockpile for whatever happens, because a lot of people are having a bigger problem when we're getting ourselves ready for those situations. The only other thing I'd really like to say is a radio show. Representative Schrader will be on. He'll talk about the post office and a lot of the issues we just talked about. So he has agreed to stay up late tonight and spend some time on the radio with us, along with a number of issues with respect to economic development on the coast. So with that, I'll turn it over to David, unless there's any questions. Or you can do the questions on the line.
It looks like Scott Cooper has a question. We'll start with Scott.
Thank you, Senator, for that update on the $105 million to buy PPE. Just a curious note on that is any of that purchasing amount going, or any of those purchasing dollars going to be used locally to local companies doing PPE?
There are two companies that were identified that were local, that were in the mix. They were getting approvals so that all of their stuff is correct. So they are working on that as being a part of that money. So the answer to that is yes. That is a hope and an expectation from the committee when we were actually having that conversation. The other thing I would say is I had a meeting earlier with two of your commissioners regarding a school opening, and I've talked to the governor and I've talked to Colt. I haven't been able to get a hold of the doctors yet, but I will have a conversation about a school that doesn't let anybody off the property. So, a boarding school. So we're still having that conversation.
I forgot to thank you publicly. Thanks for doing that. It was great to have you, Senator Roblin. All right, we have Representative Gomberg here as well with us. He's the 541 phone number, and so make sure to get him talking and welcome Representative Gomberg. I think I did you. Yes.
Well, thank you, Casey. I want to make sure, can I be heard?
I can hear you.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank Senator Roblin for that overview. And yes, the emergency board met yesterday. That would be our 7th. And we distributed what appears to be the last of the federal dollars that have come to Oregon for CARES projects. And these have been great allocations. We have distributed money to small business to try and deal with domestic and sexual violence, to deal with healthcare, mental health, emergency housing. We have helped entertainment venues that have been losing ticket sales, and we put money into broadband. Good proposals, very difficult to vote against any of them because they are good proposals. But I said yesterday that I'm concerned that while moving forward these specific requests, that we may have lost sight of the larger picture, because we have been expressing concerns from the very beginning that often these dollars are more allocated toward Portland at the expense of smaller communities or other counties. Particularly true because the city of Portland, as well as Multnomah and Washington County, received direct allocations from the federal government, and now we're dispersing dollars, and a lot of those state dollars are going into the counties and the city that has already received their own independent allocation. So we've been expressing these concerns. The emergency board has met, And now the League of Oregon Cities has come out with an analysis which largely reinforces the concerns that we have had. And I touched on this at our last meeting when I said that our analysis is showing that if you take the dollars going into Portland and divide it by the Portland population, that comes to about $170 per person. But if you do the same analysis in Sheridan, in my district, there's about half that money or less than half that money. And if you move outside the city limits, those areas are receiving about 1/3 what the city of Portland has. And I suggested at the meeting yesterday that if these concerns are misplaced and if the analysis is incorrect, that we need to hear that, because Oregonians want to know that they're being treated fairly and equitably in the distribution of these CARES dollars. Some of the money is still waiting to be distributed. We're waiting to ensure that it actually does get out as intended. But remember that these dollars need to be spent by the end of the year, or they all go back to the federal government. We'll lose this money if we don't spend it. And so I'm looking now at whether any of the $1 billion that we have allocated so far is still unspent, and whether we can get some of that money back before the end of the year and allocate it toward cities, counties, and other worthwhile and necessary projects. So that's my quick update. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm on the phone today because I'm actually driving back from a gathering to support the Newport post office, and I'm pleased to hear at least initial news reports that decisions to cut back on post office spending may be curtailed at least until after the election.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Representative Gomberg, and thank you for being at the post office. I'm always amazed at how a little bit of advocacy or a lot of advocacy changes things. So, and we still at the county still have money that sits at the state that we have not sought reimbursement for from the local government allocation. So, something to be aware of. Do we have questions for Representative Gomberg or for the legislators across the board?
This is Abisha.
Oh, yes.
Hi there. I'm trying to keep my internet connectivity, so I'm not using video. I just wanted to share with our representatives that, especially as we are thinking about purchasing PPE locally and working with local businesses, which we appreciate, thank you, that I just found out that one of our local manufacturers has installed a high-speed automated line for making the blue medical masks, and they are currently receiving FDA certification to do so, and that's right here in the Valley. And so we are connecting him to it's Kachatna Manufacturing, also known by their brand of Northwest Alpine, and we are connecting them to partners. But I just wanted to make that known to the folks on this call, because that is a product that we have not had being made locally that folks have been looking for. And so I just want to get that news out there. Our manufacturing partners are continuing to diversify and to respond to the need, in part to make sure that we're meeting the needs that we have here in the state of Oregon, and in part, I think, because they're doing good business. But for whatever reason, that material is now going to be made available locally made, which is very exciting.
That is very exciting, Abisha. So note, e-board members. Okay, thank you. Anything else for Senator Roblin and Representative Gomberg for now? All right, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on. I'm going to mute you, Representative Gomberg. Sorry, feel bad, but now we don't have to worry about his road noise going up and over Cape Foul weather. I'd like to move on now to Commissioner Mary Starrett, who I'm pretty sure is the 434 number. Commissioner Starrett, let's see if I can unmute you. What would you like to tell people today?
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. First, I want to say thank you to Senator Roblin for our discussion yesterday and his willingness to work on the ability of the Delphian School in the Sheridan area to reopen. We know that they do face significant hurdles, but based on a remote rural categorization, hopefully we'll be able to get an exception for them, and hopefully that school will be able to open. Just wanted to mention that I am involved in, submitted an affidavit with for a temporary restraining order. It was a suit filed in the U.S. District Court, and that is to allow the private and the parochial schools to open, because as we know, the public schools have received $28 million plus another $5 million to remediate some of the costs associated with reopening, and to date are not. And we're just asking that the religious schools be given the same accommodation as gyms and the universities and retail establishments, so that they can open. Otherwise, they do face closure. So just, we're working on that. We've gotten some variety of emails, even from folks as far as, St. Paul, asking if we can advocate for the reopening of schools. So that's important, and parents are letting us know that that is on their radar, and we are coming down to the wire. So that's just one of the things we've been working on.
Before I call for questions, was that your car alarm? Is everything okay, Commissioner Sterrett?
No, I'm in my office and I'm looking out across at the courthouse, and I watched some guy jump in his car, and I think it stopped now. So it's something across the street at the courthouse. But yeah, you know where I'm located, so I hear everything on 5th and Evans.
All right, great. I'm glad everything's okay. Any questions or comments for Commissioner Sterrett? All right, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to mayors now, and we'll start with Mayor Cooley from Sheridan. What would you like to tell people in the community?
I'd just like to share that I really appreciate this forum to be able to share information and find out what's going on. So that would be my only thing today, is to say thank you. Thank you for doing this and having this information available.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Mayor. It's been wonderful having both you and Representative Gomberg and Senator Roblin all on the call to really give people in the Sheridan area a sense of what's happening in the state. So thank you. And I think we're at 44 right now, so I'm consistent if nothing else, right? You are too. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Let's go to Mayor Rogers from the city of Newburgh. What would you like to tell people in Newburgh and the county today?
Right. Well, greetings, Commissioner. Thank you, everyone. Good to see you all. I, unfortunately, am not as consistent as the others of you, but I will try to do better. Anyway, again, thank you for everyone for being on the call. Jody, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm absolutely delighted, and I think the rest of us on the council, regarding the Equity and Recovery and the Racial Justice Council. Again, I just think it's great and timely, very needed work. Which brings me to, and I may have mentioned this before, so I apologize if I have, but Newburgh City Council for this year came up with what I think are fairly decent goals, 5 of them. And what they are is to work towards DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, sustainability, housing affordability, customer service, and urban renewal. And particularly when we see that DEI is probably one of our top goals, probably potentially because of some of our history. But to that end, last night we appointed a new city councilor for District 4 in Newburgh. And that is, I'm happy to say, Bryce Cofield, who is the Associate Director of Multicultural Student Development at George Fox. So we are thrilled that Bryce came on. And I'm even more thrilled that we had, get this, 4 candidates put their names in to fill the seat for the next 2 years. So I'm absolutely thrilled, and we're happy that Bryce is willing to serve. So that's what I got at the moment. And again, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. Are there questions for Mayor Rogers? All right, welcome. We're all a little bit, we can come and go, but the important thing is to be able to communicate to people in the community, right? Our Mayor Hill from McMinnville, what would you like to tell people in the city and here on the call?
Good afternoon, Commissioner, and those that are on the line and those that will be watching at a later time. I'm sorry I started a little late, but had a lunch over at Linfield with Dr. Davis and Trustee Board Member Dave Hogelberg and Jeff Towery. And as you know, this week is the first week of freshmen at Linfield. They have approximately 500. And I talked to Dr. Davis about their process of having students come back. And each student, before they were to leave home, needed to have a test to make sure that they were free from COVID. Once they arrived at the school, they were tested again, and they have a 24-hour turnaround on those tests. Dr. Davis told me of the 500 tests that were done, 0 came out positive, so they were all negative. And the campus is closed down, buildings are closed down, so you have to have access cards to be able to get in. And it was just kind of fun to see these students that are freshmen at Linfield coming together and the excitement that they have of pursuing their educational dreams. This week, I wanted to go very quickly. This evening we have a McMinnville Water and Board meeting, and we're going to be looking at a couple of issues. The first is our cyber risk insurance renewal. We're looking at updating the extension of the COVID-19. We're going to review our annual review of the investment policy. We're very interestingly, we have been pushing for payments towards credit cards, and those credit card payments cost us about $4 a transaction, and we've decided to cover those costs given the COVID. And with our customer service area being closed, we're going to go down to a part-time customer service agent because of the lack of work, and that's going to cover the cost of using credit cards for payments, and we've seen great success with that. We're going to do a appointment to our subcommittee on the audit. And then lastly, we are going to be purchasing 3 steel transmission poles, one for the site at on West 2nd as we're expanding that transmission site, and then 2 at the site of Hill Road. So that's our agenda this evening. Tomorrow evening, we're going to be having a council work session, and we've got 2 items of presentation and discussion that night. We're doing an update on our UGB remand process, and Heather Richards is going to update the council as to where we are. We're on a very fast track for this remand. We should have everything put together and back to LCDC by the end of the year. Back in May, as we were going over code, we had a discussion around rental housing maintenance program, and we wanted to get deeper in that discussion. And so Heather's going to bring that to us and do an update for us from that perspective. This week I've had a chance to talk to the hospital. PPE, we're in good shape, but I think as Senator Roblin indicated, a concern of the regular flu season that's going to be coming upon us. And so that's their big concern. 2 last things that I'd like to do. I'm going to step out of the old age, and we're going to create on our website at the city the Mayor's Corner, where I'm going to be able to update on a weekly basis, much like we do here, the comings and the goings at the city, and I'm going to probably do a lot of that from a video perspective. And then last thing, I'm going to leave the big story to Joya to talk a little bit about what we were doing on Saturday, but it has to do with lemonade and dressing in yellow attire. But when we were downtown and we were visiting the stands, I just want to share with you that there was quite a crowd out for breakfast out in Dine McMinnville. And I took the opportunity to stop and talk to individuals. And we had individuals that had come into town and were in a hotel and had come out for breakfast. We had residents of McMinnville that were out having breakfast, and we had individuals from Yamhill County that were out coming in to partake of the great food and dining in McMinnville. And all of them were so excited to be able to be sitting outside, having a lovely breakfast, talking with one another. Again, masked when they weren't eating, and they were social distancing, and all servers, as I observed, were wearing mask, gloves, and doing the things that needed to happen. And so again, I throw out to the MDA kudos for that program, just doing the things that we need it to be doing. That's all I have today, Casey.
Great, thank you very much, Mayor. And I want to say, I don't think we've, Commissioner Sarah and I haven't mentioned this to you, but I really appreciate, I should not speak for her. I really appreciate the willingness of the city council and staff to kind of switch at the last minute when we were selling the foreclosed home to the city to then get it back to the family of the original owners. I really feel like that was a really huge thing on your part to be willing to be so flexible. And I know that that family is very, very grateful.
Well, and that's the right thing to do. It really is the right thing to do. And other properties will come and we'll move towards opportunities there.
Yeah, and I will move on. I want to make sure that Councillor Minky has an opportunity to update if there's anything else that you want to add to Mayor Hill, and then we'll move to Joya so that she can give us the lemon update.
I truly don't have anything. Mayor Hill's been pretty thorough.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us today, Joya. And then I want to make sure that Shannon has some updates on unemployment numbers. So we'll make sure we get to her. Joya, what would you like to tell people today?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner Kula, and thank you, Mayor Hill. We had so much fun on Saturday at Lemonade Day. There were kids out there. It was, not as many lemonade stands as we had expected, but COVID, right? So, but it was so much fun, and we got some great photographs of super cute kids, wearing their masks, wearing their gloves, doing the right thing. We did a lot of work with the health department, so I want to shout out to the county health department. They were great to work with and gave us all the information we needed to provide to the kids. And kids and parents were being very, very conscious and mindful of what they were doing and how they were doing it. We had some very delicious lemonade. And of course, Lemmy, who's the lemon head, got to say hi to kids. And it was just an all around fun day. Mayor, thanks for coming. We always have so much fun when we do that. And so we're looking forward to next year, and hopefully we won't be in the middle of a pandemic, and we can have another great event with, we had over 100 kids that registered. We only got to see 2 stands, I think, that day, but there were stands all over town that our volunteers had gone to see. So I just want to thank everybody who went out to support our kids that day for doing so, and just thanks for supporting us too, the chamber, as we're trying to put this program together. We did send an announcement out to our members. Mayor, I'm sorry, I had to step away for a moment. Regarding the grant program that the city has is $200,000 for businesses, small businesses, less than 25 people. There are other criteria. They have to be in McMinnville. But we did send that out, and we are trying to get the word out to as many people as possible. We have information in Spanish and English. So if anyone's interested, they could always get in touch with the chamber, or of course call the planning department and speak to Sean Kelso, and he can help with that as well. And that's all I have for today. Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Joya, and congratulations. Shannon Buckmaster, what would you like to tell people on behalf of the Chehalis Valley Chamber of Commerce?
Well, we just got some really great updates on July's unemployment that I thought I would put it out there, or we got updates, I'll say, on unemployment. It looks like over the past 3 months, we've added back 38% of jobs that were cut between March and April. So we're starting to make slow progress toward a return to workforce. In July, we saw gains in these industries: leisure, hospitality, government, retail, trade, healthcare, and social assistance. We did see losses in construction, manufacturing, and information services. So that's something interesting to think about from a business perspective, and then also as we project what it looks like for our community recover. I do have 2, maybe 3 small other updates. Also at City Council last night, we approved the creation of an urban renewal agency. So Newburgh is specifically moving forward with that project. The Newburgh School District also got approval from its board to move forward with a construction bond for the November ballot. So we have good forward moving momentum that we started pre-COVID that will hopefully benefit our community greatly. Josh at the Chamber of Commerce still has masks and face shields available for free to our business members as long as they do not have more than 50 employees. And I will miss you all. On Friday is my orientation day at the City of Newburgh as their new Economic Health Manager. It is also Josh's first official day representing the Chehalis Valley Chamber of Commerce. So you'll see Josh on Friday. I will take a short break and hopefully check in as I adjust to the new role. There's my update.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Shannon. Are there any questions for Shannon or more details on the unemployment report? Okay, great. And I want to say that for those of you who have experiences or have not had experiences with Pat O'Connor, our regional employment economist, he is so amazing. I just want to say on behalf of many people who've reached out to me and probably to Commissioner Starrett as well, Pat has really helped people tremendously in our county, getting unemployment benefits, getting their claims adjusted or figured out, or just to realize that they're blank or that they spelled their name wrong. So huge shout out to him. He's been really a treasure there. All right, Josh, would you like to say anything on behalf of Chehalis Chamber, or should we wait until Friday for you to be official on this?
Let's wait till Friday. I don't have anything that Shannon hasn't already told me really, or that she hasn't already mentioned, and I have a few more days to pick her brain, so I'll do that.
Okay, that sounds good. Like that. Wendy, what would you like to tell people today on behalf of PGE in the Yamhill County community?
Hi, I'm trying to get it all. Today I have no updates, so I'm just listening to everybody else's, but no updates today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for joining us. Scott Cooper from McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. What would you like to tell people today?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Just a quick note. This morning, we had our first coffee club for startups, and we had about 14 people for the first one. This will be a monthly regular thing every third Tuesday from 8 to 9 a.m. We will be, as long as the summer and the fall weather hold nice, we will likely be at outside at a venue as much as we can until the weather shifts, and we will find an interior space for this to happen. But we will be holding these for if you're a small business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're going through a startup, or you've been through it, or you have experience, serial entrepreneurs, all of those, we invite you to attend. It's just a networking session, a conversation to assist those who have been through it, who are going through it, who want to try. And a good opportunity, a good conversation this morning, and we look forward to it. It was a nice, positive, upbeat conversation to have about future and future growth and future ideas. So it was great to have, especially over the last 5 months. So that's it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for doing that. I feel like in this time, it's so important to have support for entrepreneurs. So thanks for giving them the energy.
Commissioner, I'm sorry. I certainly don't, that was our venture catalyst, Mike White, and our partnership with Launch Mid-Valley put that together, and we were a sponsor, and we had additional sponsors as well. But we do look forward to hosting those every month. So thanks.
That's great. Thank you very much. Abhisha Stone, what would you like to add to this conversation from the economic development perspective? And welcome if you're still with us.
I am. Hi. Thank you, Commissioner Kula. As I shared with all of you, we're having some work done at the house and things keep cutting in and out. It looks like they're holding for now, so that's great. I also want to echo what you said, Commissioner Kula, about Pat O'Connor at the Employment Department. He's one of our data analysts, along with Michael Dowdy, who actually started right before coronavirus hit. And those two gentlemen are amazing resources for us when it comes to collecting the sort of data and sharing it with the team that Shannon just shared with us. They're phenomenal resources. And so I'm sure most, if not all of you, are familiar with them. But if you're not, I certainly would suggest you reaching out and connecting with them because they're an amazing resource. So sorry, once you said Pat's name, I got a big smile because he is just that valuable to us. And I really appreciate the work they do. I have just a few things to share. So I have on this topic of the 501c6 support and programming, I wanted to make sure folks are aware that SEDCOR has partnered with McMinnville Economic Development Partnership, the Chehalis Valley Chamber of Commerce, the McMinnville Chamber of Commerce, and we've put together a business recovery program that is a very collaborative effort in Yamhill County. We've also partnered with some folks in Marion County to create a regional program for business recovery within our 3-county region. And this really is a 501c6 collaborative effort that we are now looking for funding for. So this is very intentional. We have a program design that I would be happy to share out with all of you. It is completely focused on all of our organizations, centralizing data, centralizing program, working together, creating basically a portal that folks can use for centralizing that information and sharing this information more broadly with our business partners, connecting this B2B networking much more deeply than we have in the region. And it's a really phenomenal program. We have spoken to the Board of Commissioners in Yamhill County who have been extremely supportive of this work. And I appreciate the fact that they are trying to figure out how to assist us in getting some programmatic support. But I want to make sure that you know, Senator Roblin, Joyce, our representatives are aware of this effort. So we are the support for our businesses in this time of recovery, and we are actively trying to identify the best ways to work to support them in pivoting their businesses and moving forward and keeping them strong. I also want to share that we are continuing to hear from our industry partners, especially our traded sector industry partners, that they cannot attract talent. We have some major hurdles to staffing. And I think that we have some ideas of potentially where there's a disparity. You know, we have anywhere from 7 to 13% unemployment, depending on where you're at in the state. And then we have businesses that are desperately seeking employees, who are putting out advertisements for employees and working with WorkSource Oregon and can't even get one applicant, right? So something is missing. There's something broken in this system. And I don't know the answer. I don't even know all of I can't even understand all of the reasons, right, behind this. But there's a major disconnect here. And I'm just going to keep bringing that up until somebody looks at me with kind of the knowing eyes and some sort of an answer of programming that they think might be the answer to this, so that we can all jump on it and wholeheartedly support it. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. And I'm sure you can hear in my voice this concern and frustration, because we have folks who would like to be working, who would like to get back to work. We have businesses who are hiring, and yet there's a hole. So a lot of work to be done there, obviously, and SEDCOR is happy to be a partner in that work, and we're looking for support, ideas, programming. So that's it from me. Thank you.
Before I ask if there are any questions for Abhishek, I'm going to ask mine, which is, Abhishek, is there a qualifications gap between the minimum requirements of the employer and just the employee pool?
I think that's a great question, Commissioner. My immediate answer to that is no, because we're seeing a lot of entry-level positions that are not getting filled. Some of this, I think, is potentially education, right? It's also so you see a large group of folks that are potentially changing career paths, right? So maybe they've been in hospitality before, and this would be a complete shift for them. So there might be some folks who are not interested in that sort of a career shift and who are actively waiting for opportunities in their chosen field to once again become available. And some of that might be because they are not aware of the types of opportunities available in these other industries. So it could be an education gap. I'm certain that there's some areas where there's a skills gap sort of a component, especially when folks are looking to make a certain wage or a major transition. But I think that the largest volume of need does not require a large skill base.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Scott Cooper has a question for you.
Yeah, Abhishek brings up a great point and a concerning one as well. Certainly retraining and training are going to be key and vital as new people enter into new positions change careers, change opportunities that they were left out of or were laid off of, or whatever the case may be. So that's going to be vital, and the ability to get that in place, not only for a heavily manufactured region like Yamhill County, but across the state is certainly going to be key for us and for discussions that we need to be having and are having now, but certainly moving forward as we get those job figures back to a more normal base.
Yeah, that's a good point, Scott. And I have one more thing to add. We don't have anybody on the call here from WorkSource Oregon, and so with respect to the fact that nobody is here to speak to this, I think that it's likely that we'll need to see some transitions in their approaches, right? So supporting these workers in making these connections to other opportunities and doing that skills development and training like Scott was saying. But I'm certain that there's an opportunity for a significant pivot in state sponsored workforce development programming to come our way.
Yeah, thank you for that addition, Abhisha. I wonder whether Jody Christensen, I mean, I think it's valuable that Jody hears this, but I wonder if Jody has anything she'd like to add to that.
Well, I think this is a really important conversation that we were certainly having before COVID, right? So our employers were finding it difficult to fill positions, some going for, years without filling positions. I know when I was working in economic development. I think from my experience and what I'm learning through the other regions is really exposing people to the opportunity. So taking the mystery out of the connection and also creating a safe space for people to explore new career opportunities. And I think of programs like apprenticeships, internships, career exploration, and the earlier you can start those, the better, because I really think in workforce development, you have to take a grow your own approach. Not only are you facing the fact that companies are having difficulty finding people, communities in rural Oregon are having a difficult time attracting people. So you've got sort of two things going on. The company can singularly be looking for somebody, but if the community can support that employer's way to attract new people, that's a really important piece too. So I really think that workforce development programs should have a triple bottom line, right? It should be good for the company, it should be good for the community, and it should be good for the employee. So you're creating a really big multiplier effect. So when people connect to a job, you need to then make them understand there's a pathway through that job, either in skills so they're transferable or skills to move up. What you don't want people to do is feel stagnant. And I think sometimes, quite frankly, an entry-level job, if you don't know what that means, that it's an entry into something and you grow within that company, it can it's a missed opportunity in marketing that. So this is a conversation that's happening statewide and trying to really unlock that. We've got people looking for work and we've got companies who have job openings. How do you make that connect? I think you do that through building bridge programs.
That was so awesome. Thank you. Mayor Rogers has another comment, but I wanted to say, is this appropriate for TV? Hell yeah. Okay.
No, I just wanted to add to what Jody said, and I think this underscores some of the work that Abhisha is doing with SEDCOR as well. And that's the fact of housing. It's great to try to attract people, but if they're on a minimum wage job and they can't afford a place to live in our communities, we've got a serious problem that I think the employers are starting to realize. So more power to the notion of workforce housing and anything we can do to promote it in our region. So there you are. Thank you.
Great,
I would add childcare as well. So, you not only want to have a great career, you want to have a place where you can live in a community that you love, but you also have to have a safe place for children. So I think that it really is not a singular thing. You really need to be looking at it as from multiple factors.
Yes, and our local CCO partnered with the county to propose a childcare feasibility study, which I'm hoping we're presenting to the Board of Commissioners this week. And it would specifically be finding out where are the gaps in childcare, where can we put, do we need tutors, do we need straight up just access, and then the hope of then taking that plan and showing it to Congress, you know, to funding streams that are out there to really fund expanded childcare access, not only for coronavirus land, but for past that. We'll see. All right, any other thoughts on that? We still have Senator Roblin here, so what I'd love to do is the same thing that we did last week with Fritz from Senator Wyden's office, which is, what would you like to have as a takeaway message for Senator Roblin as he goes into fall legislative committees, legislative days, and probably another special session? All right.
We have legislative days on September 21st for that week, so they are coming up, and I have the mental health committee that I'm on. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the subcommittee on transportation economic development. So it's been nice of Goya to ask me to come to the conversations about building roads in Yamhill County. So I will continue to have those issues directly, but I'm on natural resources and a bunch of other committees too. So if there are issues you want brought up, I really would love to hear them.
Okay, thank you very much, Senator, for being open to this. I'm just going to look for the first unmuted. It looks like Mayor Rogers is reaching for his, but maybe he's not yet.
This is Abisha.
Abisha.
Thank you. Senator Roblin, I guess just coming out of the conversations I just shared, the few takeaways, some support for the state, I think, in creating new workforce transitioning programming to kind of support some of the things that Jody even shared, right, is really how does the state in the work that they do with workforce help in training and transitioning and communicating to a workforce who may be looking now for a different career path or future. The next one is business recovery support that looks like support coming from the chambers of commerce and the economic development organizations such as SEDCOR and MEDP. So really focusing on programmatic business support for COVID recovery, making that transition away from grant direct sort of funding business recovery to programmatic business recovery. As Commissioner Kula mentioned, Yamhill County is putting in for this work for childcare program development, especially because we've lost so many child care service providers that long-term recovery will rely on that. And as Mayor Rogers mentioned, Newburgh has a workforce housing consortium and is working actively on a pilot project for some funding for a pilot project as well. But those sorts of efforts I'm seeing, and I don't know where everything has landed, but I did see that some of the funding that the state had around programming for workforce development was either in question or kind of on the chopping block. And I would suggest that those are really important funds for these sorts of initiatives.
I would tell you, because childcare is something I've looked at a lot for a long time, and it would be nice if chambers and small business people who know that they need childcare, we're going to have a new model. Childcare doesn't pay for itself. You can't hire the people. The requirements for how many kids you can have and that kind of stuff are really tough. And the places where I've seen amazing things are up in the Seattle area many years ago, when a consortium of small businesses got together and they subsidized childcare in their vicinity. So parents who worked in those companies had a place for their childcare, and that childcare was some of the money that allowed it to work came from those other businesses. And so we don't have a lot of those. It would take some real work to bring the coalitions together, because it has nothing to do with what business you have. It has to do with whether you have employees who have kids and how you can do that. Up in the Seattle area where I saw it really work, it was Microsoft and all these other big companies. They knew there weren't enough childcare facilities, and they didn't want to be a childcare facility. So they went out and found people who could run one and got facilities for them and other kinds of stuff. So I think we're either going to have to come up with a new model, or we're going to have to figure out how at the federal and state level to subsidize, because otherwise you can't make a living at this. And what we saw in this pandemic was they went out very quickly because they didn't have any capital to continue, and they couldn't serve as many kids, and so there was no way for them to hold on. So I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, do you mind if I respond to that real quick? I agree with you. And we actually have some partners in our region who are looking to partner just like that, childcare providers with our traded sector companies. However, there is risk in doing that, especially as a new venture. And so an incentive program from the state that would incentivize that sort of a partnering would be heavily utilized and much appreciated. So I completely agree with you. Also, in our workforce housing group in Newburgh, we're considering childcare, on-site childcare as a component of that. So where we're seeing this kind of like three-pronged support system for the employees, right? Place to live, place for your children, a place to work that supports your place to live, and a place for your children, sort of a concept. I would love to see some sort of state-supported program to help fund some of those, even as a pilot project for like something replicable throughout the state. But I agree with and appreciate that comment. So thank you, Senator Roblin.
Back to the future, we're gonna have company towns again.
Fingers crossed.
And I think that the county is actually a great example of the need. We have county employees who, as their kids get older or as they have children, they come into the county or without a child. They have a child while they're working for the county, and then they have to, they choose, because of the challenges of finding childcare, to take a job closer to their childcare or closer to a parent. And then we lose all that valuable institutional knowledge and experience and wisdom and skilled employees. So we see it and feel it at the county as well. Okay, other folks. Yes, Kelly Minky.
What I brought up last time, I really appreciate everyone's enthusiasm in working to get people with their jobs, get money for people, so businesses, so they can go forward. Childcare is extremely important. But I think we're still looking at an amazing amount of eviction issues coming up within the next year. And I really think that the state legislature and, the judicial system need to look at some form of way to lessen the impact of this and keep people in their homes and get landlords paid at least a reasonable amount. It's just very important for people to have a home. If they don't have a home, they're not going to be able to deal. And, there's only so much we can do as far as the homeless community. We're doing our very best with everything you give us. So we appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Rogers, anything about the Newburgh-Dundee bypass? I mean, come on.
Newburgh-Dundee bypass? No, we just got to get it done. Get that bypass done. That's so funding for that would be obviously fantastic. So let's get it done.
I just thought I should,
Yeah, no, it was, you needed to. That was perfect.
Just nudge a little bit. Okay, other thoughts for Senator Roblin?
We have to make sure we can get to the gun club too. They got to get all those little winding roads out there.
That's right.
Yes. Actually, recently I read the conditions of approval for that facility. It's always good to do your homework.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay, other things you would like to tell Senator Roblin or hope for him? Okay, great. Thank you very much for taking that, taking all those suggestions.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any closing thoughts from folks today? Okay, I just wanted to close by noting that we got our county, the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Education updated their county reopening metrics, which are the number of new cases per 100,000 residents for the week and the test positivity rate. And Yamhill County decreased their new number of cases by 60%. However, we're still too high, but I just wanted you to note that this is a really good step. It's a step in the right direction, especially if we're now at 57 new cases per 100,000 residents for the past week. And if we can get that down to 30, then schools like the Delphian School and children K through 3 may be able to open for come to in-person classes. So to me, that's really exciting that we're going in that direction. We also have a test positivity rate for the county that's now once again below 5%. We were.
Is the state below 5 now too?
Let me check in a second here. Yes, I have it open, but I can talk while I'm doing this. That's the thing that's amazing. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Okay, statewide, we're at 5.4%.
Close.
Yep, it is coming down. It's well, it's up 0.2% from last week. But again, we're at that edge. So I'm hopeful. But one thing that we have seen is that cooperating with contact tracers is really, really important so that folks can get identified. And so this goes, I'm really speaking to employers here as much as everybody else, is that if you have somebody who you think has coronavirus in your workplace, make sure that you take the proper precautions and contact public health. Take this really seriously, but also for other organizations as well. Contact tracing really only works if we cooperate with the public health folks. We want to see that community spread percentage go down. We want to be able to connect with every single person who has been exposed and make a connection between those cases and a known positive case. And then we can really get our numbers down to the point where we will be able to reopen for some part of in-person classes. I really think we can do that in our county. So again, I'm not necessarily talking to all of you here, but I'm talking to all of you out there. This is something we really can do, but it does take the cooperation literally of every single person doing their part of it. And I know that sometimes it's hard to believe. I find myself thinking, should I go to that event or should I stay home? And honestly, every time I choose to stay home and kind of be a social bore, it actually reduces the incidence, because that means that one fewer person or two fewer people are getting together. And that's kind of boring and it's kind of antisocial, but I can't wait to hug people. So, I miss my grandma. And Joya probably misses her mom and all the other older ladies in their 90s. So, unless there are further comments along those lines, I just want to let everybody know we really can do this. And everybody that's here on the call, again, is working every day for you. And they work for people who are working for you. So I'll talk to you later, and we will see you on Friday.